Hi guys, in today's video I wanted to have a go at something a little bit Halloweeny, so it's not my usual kind of thing. I usually go more cutesy than this, and it was done in a Facebook Live, so this is a little bit of a sped up version for you guys. I've just got a vanilla sponge cake and I've just heated some white chocolate ganache, and I'm gonna try and mix it to a bit of a skin tone. Now I'm gonna go for a paler skin tone, I think, for this one. I did do a darker skin tone as well. I'll see if I can find some photos to show you that one as well at the end of the video. So I'm using a bit of the latte coloured colour melt in there to get it to roughly a skin tone. And I'm also going to prep myself some caramel drizzle, which I want to put in the cake. I cheated and I just bought a caramel drizzle that was ready made. So I'm just going to add a little bit of red food colour. Now, if you want to know exactly which colours and stuff I've used, guys, what I'll do is I'll put links below the video. They will take you to links in my website, as I do have an online shop. You don't have to buy them from there at all, guys. It's just so you can see what I've used. And for this one, it was a bit of Christmas red and the pink here. Now, I'm also going to do some cupcakes as well as a cake. So I'm just going to cut a little bit out the middle of my cupcakes, and I'm going to stick in a bit of this fake blood, which actually tastes really nice. And then just stick a bit of the cupcake back on the top there. And do this for as many cupcakes as you want to make. And I'll show you shortly what's going to be going on the top of these. So cupcakes prepped, ready for the toppers. The other thing I'm going to do is just layer up my sponge cake. So it's just a 6-inch sponge cake that I've got here. So it's not an overly wide cake, but I want to make it nice and tall. And I've got some buttercream here that I have actually just mixed red food colouring into as well. So I've put a thin layer of buttercream on, and then I'm piping like a dam of buttercream around the edge, because I want to put my caramel sauce or fake blood into the middle of my cake. So I'm hoping that when I layer it up and I cut the cake, it will drip like bleeding kind of cake. That was the plan. So I'm going to keep doing this with all my layers. And if you don't put the dam of buttercream there, guys, the fake blood just pours out straight away. It just oozes everywhere. So once you've got all your layers on, you can pipe any leftover buttercream around the edges if you want. Smooth it down. You can see in the odd place that my caramel has already started to leak out, so just be very careful of that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover the whole thing in a layer of my ganache. Now, I tried to just put it on the leaking areas first. It didn't block the leakages very well. But once you've put it on, once you put your layer of ganache on, you can get that in the fridge to just firm up. So I've put it on the top and the sides. And you might even want to go for red ganache rather than like the skin tone. Whatever skin tone you go for with your fondant is the skin tone that you want to go for, I guess, with the chocolate ganache. So you can go over with as many layers of ganache as you want, guys. Just go over till you've got it fairly smooth. And you might have to stick it in the fridge between layers. And I realise I did it all top down filming for you guys, so it's not the easiest angle for you to see from, so I do apologise. So while our cake is in the fridge, I'm going to make some eyeballs. Now, I've got these giant sprinkles. They're kind of like chocolate and biscuit in the middle. I don't know if you guys can see. Almost a little bit like a Malteser, but with like a white candy coating. They're a little bit splattered effect, and I thought these make ideal bases for us to change into little eyeballs. So I'm just using some edible pens, and I'm going to put a black circle on there in pen. I'm leaving a tiny dot of that black circle in white. If you want to stick fondant on instead of using the pen, you can do, but with the edible pen, it left it really nice and flat on the surface of my little eyeball. You could go for a different shaped pupil as well. It doesn't have to be round. We could go more kind of goat-like and go a bit more oval. And then you're going to choose a colour for the iris. So on this one, I've gone for a bit of yellow pen. Edible pen, guys. It's definitely edible pens. And then a little bit of red just around the outside of that. Kind of flicking the colour in from the outer edge inwards. It's mixing a bit of orange. And let's have a go with a different colour. So this one we've got a sky blue pen. Just going to go just around the outer edge of the black. Let's go for a bit of purple on the outer edge. And do as many of the eyeballs as you think you want. I like the eyeballs, but I don't know if they necessarily are needed for the cake that I'm going to do. So while my other cake's in the fridge, I'm just going to show you this one that I made yesterday. And I made some sort of hard bits of dried skin. This is made from wafer paper, guys. And you're just going to let them set, and they're going to go really crispy. And I just thought they looked a bit like dried up skin. This thicker one's actually made from fondant, but the fondant one didn't set very well. So to make that wafer paper, what I've got is a small amount of water, and I've just mixed in a little bit of piping gel. I've just put like a spoonful of piping gel in. I just thought it would stop my paper snapping quite as easily when it dries. So it is edible, is this paper. This is wafer paper. It goes very wet and soggy once we soak it. And I'm going to add some food colouring to it to make it more the skin tone that's going to match my cake. So I used the clay one for the darker skin for the cake that I made yesterday, but I'm going to go for the lighter one today. And the paper that I've got my bowl resting on is actually greaseproof paper, so that we've got something that's non-stick. So you're going to take pieces of that wafer paper and you're just going to dunk it in your food colouring that's mixed with your piping gel and water. And then you're just going to place it on your greaseproof paper. And we're going to leave it on there till it dries. And don't worry if you get holes and tears in it. It adds to the effect. It actually looks quite nice if they've got little holes in them. And you can do it different sized pieces. They are very fragile though when they're dry, guys, so those we have to leave to dry. Now I've rolled out some fondant that's the same colour as the chocolate ganache that I put on the cake earlier. And I'm going to roll it out big enough to put onto my cake. And we're just going to roll this over. I could have probably rolled this a little bit thinner than what I did do. And of course you can use modelling chocolate as well if you want, or even a mix of fondant and modelling chocolate together. And we're just going to rub this down, trying to pull out the creases. But if you do get some creases in this one, don't worry, because they can become part of the tears in the skin and the marks. And I wouldn't usually cover a board this way, but because I had plenty of icing, what I wanted to do was just try and drag it out and roll it onto my board so that I then didn't need to roll and cover my board separately later. And you can see I've got plenty of lines and things in it. Usually I would remove those, but for this style of cake, I think it's okay. We're going to leave them in. So I'm just going to try and rub the edges of my cake to get them a little bit sharper than what they currently are. And because this was done in a Facebook Live, guys, I didn't spend as long on it as I maybe should have done. So don't rush that bit. And then we can start pressing in. So I've got a seam there anyway, or a crease. I'm going to press in either side. And I think this would nicely make a scar. So let's just poke little holes either side where stitching can go. And you can bring it up the cake a little bit as well if you want. And you can put as many of these scar marks in as you want. They look a little bit gorier when we open up the scar. So let's do one where we use the back end of our Drizzle tool. So we're pushing in much firmer and kind of opening up the wound a little bit. And I'm kind of just pushing it around so it looks a bit grim in the middle. And then what I've got here that I'm painting in the gap with is a mix of piping gel mixed with red food colouring. And you're just going to keep going with these all over your cake. So let's put some marks in that look maybe like, I don't know, claw marks or nail marks have torn through the skin. So these ones we won't put the little holes in because we don't want it to look like a scar that's been stitched. We want it to look like a big open wound. And if you put quite a lot of that piping gel on, it will start to drip as well, which I think looks quite gross. And then I was trying to put in, or seeing what it looked like if we put like teeth marks in. I don't really know what teeth marks look like in skin, so we're just playing around here. I thought also might look quite nice if we had almost like bloody fingerprints. So that's just the piping gel. And if you're doing this for somebody, you can always put on a pair of gloves as well. I have washed my hands before this video, guys. And you can always splatter some extra blood on there. Now, you can go as over the top as you want with this. I really like the blood splatter effect. So piping gel and red food colouring for that, guys. And you can do the same effect on cupcakes and cookies. And I'll show you that in a bit. And you can also add those eyeballs. So there's little eyeballs that we made. I don't know if they make it look like gruesome and maybe a little bit more cartoony. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below if you prefer it with or without the eyeballs. So earlier when we did the wafer paper and we let it dry, we could use it to put kind of hard bits on that stick out from the cake. But if you want to put it on wet, so freshly kind of soaked wafer paper, you can stick that directly to the surface of the cake as well. Just gives you a bit of texture on there. And of course, if you don't like this bit, you don't have to do this bit. That will need to dry. And then I'm going to roll some really thin fondant. Now, if you struggle with fondant, because it's very soft to roll thin pieces from, you can swap to modelling paste. But I've just got it pre-dyed black. I'm going to roll it thin, and then I'm going to put it between all those little holes that I put in the scars. And you don't have to put it in every mark. And then I'm just going to add that dried wafer paper to anywhere that I think wants a little bit more detailing. Maybe a few on the top. few more eyeballs. The eyeballs actually taste really nice. And then just to show you what it looks like with this one that I did yesterday. And if the pieces of skin want to flop, you can just hold them up with a cocktail stick until they've set. So I'm putting some little pieces of fondant on the back of them to hold them in place. Now, if you wet the fondant too much, this wafer paper that set hard will just go soggy again and then it'll start to flop. So just watch out for that. Maybe if I roll the eyeball in some of my leftover piping gel, maybe that looks a little bit gorier for the eyeballs. I'm not sure if you can still tell if it's an eyeball or not. So like I say, guys, you can make matching cupcakes and cookies in exactly the same way. So this is one of the cupcakes that I did make before. And I used a foam dome for making the tops of these to get it nice and curved. And the idea being that the caramel sauce is supposed to kind of drip a little bit in the middle and look like blood pouring out. But you don't want to put too much in there because otherwise it's going to get very messy for somebody that's eating it. So this one, when we cut into it, the idea was that it was supposed to run quite a lot. And I did take this to my friend's birthday, but it was it was 2 days after I made the cake. So I think the caramel sauce had time to absorb into the cake. So there wasn't as much to just run down the cake and look like running blood. But she liked it. I'm not sure it's what she was expecting for her birthday, a Halloween-themed cake, but she enjoyed the cake. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see any more Halloween-themed stuff, please do let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more weekly tutorials. Thanks, guys. If you like the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and more.